My name is Jesse Lynch, and I'm an industry specialist here at Ocient. And at Ocient, what we do is we deal with big analytics challenges for our customers. And those challenges tend to be measured in millions of records firing at you per second and storing that data at petabyte scale in order to analyze it over time. Prior to Ocient, I was a leader at T-Mobile USA, where I spent time running platforms like Ocient's platform and building out capabilities such as data governance, data science, and data security. So today I'm going to talk about a few things that we're seeing in the telco space right now, and I'm going to deal with some of the conversations that are happening out there and some of the use cases we're seeing. But before we do that, since we're just kind of getting back and assembling, we got to get the blood flowing a little bit. And I'm not going to make you guys stand up, but I do want to do a little bit of a hands up raise scenario here. So how many people here took more than 4 hours on a plane to travel to this conference? Raise your hand. I know my hand's up. How many people potentially took 8 hours to get here? Oh, we got some travelers. Anybody hit over 12 hours to get here on this trip? Holy cow, a lot of you guys. I'm down. How about anybody over 16 hours? All right, you guys, road warriors right here. Everybody give a little clap for the road warriors here. Nicely done. Now, on that point, though, are you aware that the planes that you traveled on, and depending on what planes they were, those put off over 500 terabytes of diagnostic data for those flights? And if you think about that multiplied by the amount of flights that happen every day, that is a huge amount of information that gets put out there. But it also is a challenge for folks to figure out, how do I go get that data? How do I get it off of planes? How do I make it usable? And we're going to have a little bit of that kind of conversation here in the telco space with this presentation. Getting used to this. In telco, we've come a long way in the last 50 years or so, as we have come from a point of having a couple of antennas out there and a brick cell phone, potentially something that was in your Porsche convertible, if you believe the 1980s movies we've seen, to now a worldwide set of interconnected networks, handling multiple protocols and technologies, and delivering truly sophisticated products and services. And as we manage these products and services and figure out how to deal with customer expectations there's a lot of information we need to figure out, a lot of information that we need to pull together to understand what decisions we need to make about those networks today and those networks tomorrow. Now, to support things like this, what we're really all looking for is the answer. And I want to let you know, everybody, I have the answer right here. This is the answer in the form of our answer mascot. And I certainly did not have a lot of budget for this, so here it is. But, this is a mascot that's colorful. It's pretty small. It's kind of squishy. It's wavy. It's pretty easy to lose under your couch. And it's elusive, right? The answer is elusive. And we know that to get the answer in the business world, it's also elusive, right? It can be very complicated to find answers we need to run our businesses. But we know one of the key components to finding the answer is data, right, and information. And we hear it all the time. How important is data to get to the answer? But how challenging it can be to process that data, collect that data, get it at the right time and the right cost for our decision makers. And in the telco space, data volumes and complexity are growing amazingly, right? As we put out more sophisticated networks and more interesting products to our customers. We know that for the companies that can do this, however, and harness that data, it's a game changer, right? And it's something that is a competitive advantage that can truly hit, the world of your top line and bottom line growth. And prior to Ocient, having spent time at T-Mobile USA for 14 years as an IT leader in their organization, I saw that firsthand as we drove the uncarrier strategy and married data with success. So the ability to harness data, creating the right solutions, can lead to the right answer. Now, the challenge in harnessing this data is the same challenge we've had for the last 50 plus years, right? Get the right data at the right time for the right decision makers. But there's just more of a twist, right? We're dealing with larger and larger sets of data that we have to wade through to get to a trusted answer. And as we can see on the screen here, a couple little stats, right? We have more cell phone subscriptions than humans out there today. People may be carrying around a couple cell phones. We also have a huge growth in the world of IoT devices on our networks, right? They're expected to double in the next 10 years as we want to learn more about our world from sensor information. And as we know, these pieces of equipment and the associated networks running these pieces of equipment send and receive a lot of data. There's simply more data and more sources that we now need to correlate to get telcos to the right answers that we're looking for. And that challenge is daunting. Right, we've gone from millions of records to billions and trillions of records. We've gone from tens of data sources to hundreds to thousands of data sources. That can be user data that goes across networks. That can be data coming off of the networks itself. That can be third-party data. That can be customer feedback data. That can be weather data, right? It's all out there if it can be solution gathered and harnessed. But our challenge is the variety, velocity, the volume, and veracity of this data, known as the 4 V's of data, are really getting in the way of the most important V we have out there, which is value. And we know that the best answer comes at the right time, drives the best value. We at Ocient definitely have firsthand experience with telcos and harnessing aspects of this interesting network data, and have helped them achieve value in this space for sure. So, what are some of the things that we're seeing? I'm going to talk about a couple of use cases here we're seeing that you probably are very familiar with if you've walked the halls out here today. And given all the answers that you're seeking out there, I'm just going to talk about a couple that we're in discussions around. Right, the first on your left here is around AI ops, or that concept of supporting networks with AI ops. That ability to optimize these ever-growing complex networks we know is critical, right? We over-provision them at times. We have to deal with network topologies that are spread across their premises, that are spread across their private and public clouds, that are using third-party gear, and that have a growing expectation from our customers. This all comes together to be a pretty costly proposition if you're not managing this very, effectively. So developing solutions that can predict how best one's network should operate in certain conditions, and then having the ability to right timingly get that data out to people to tweak and change the network, right, is a game changer. So AI ops in support of those who manage the network, be that humans, RF engineers, et cetera, or autonomously, machines, right, has great promise, but has to be done really carefully. And we see you need to use a lot of data, a lot of simulation, a lot of iteration to get to the right answers, to feel comfortable that they're trusted to make changes to your valuable networks. So this is one area we see growing. You see it all over the floor. I've talked to people about this. And we've actually been involved in a catalyst effort in support of this use case of best practices for AI ops in the network. And I'll point you to that at the end of the slides here. Second one I want to talk about here is network security or network defense, right? With the complexity and sophistication of these networks and the data that's flowing across it that's so critical. We know bad actors want in, and we know we need to stop them. And this is not just around recognizing, massive attacks at your front door every day. As these bad actors are getting more sophisticated and are potentially backed by bigger dollars, right? They're using different methods of intrusion to get into these networks. Sometimes these are small pokes and prods over times that happen over days, months, maybe even years. And that ability to find those may cause that telco to have to dig deep into their networks themselves to find those telltale patterns. And unfortunately, sometimes that is finding patterns that says someone's trying to get in, or it's finding a pattern that somebody is in there already, and I better get them out there pretty quick. And this takes a lot of perseverance and some pretty specific solutions and use of big data in order to make that happen. And that answer may be found across months or years of data that you need to look at. So these are just two of the use cases that we're having quite a bit of conversations around with our third parties and with our customers. And we know there's many other use cases that you have out there that need answers, that need disruptive thinking and technology associated with them. So I've got just a minute left here. I just want to say the tasks and the activities in this kind of process are pretty daunting. We have some expertise in Ocient around that. The answers are out there. We've helped customers across several industries in the big data space deal with these challenges, and we would certainly love to know what challenges you are facing out there. And we'd love to have you come visit us at our booth 313 and come say hi to us, or check out our agentic AI solution over in the AI and innovation space and come learn about how we support that effort as well.